Hello, thank you for joining us for the fourth in what I expect will be a long line of UMB virtual town hall meetings. Today we'll be talking about students, including matters of refunds and housing and other things. I'm Alex Lukowski, Executive Director of Media Relations. Let me first tell you that this event is being recorded and will be posted later on our COVID-19 website, umaryland.edu/coronavirus. If you have questions, please post them in the Q&A or the chat sections. Someone may read your question for the panel, or your microphone may be unmuted so you can ask yourself. Please be ready if we do come to you, and we'll try to give you a heads up. Now, let me introduce to you our panel of experts. Patty Alvarez, Assistant Vice President for Student Affairs. Emilia Petrillo, Executive Director of the Student Counseling Center. Irma Robins, Deputy General Counsel. Jordan Nixon, Bursar. Scott Bitner, Senior Associate Vice President and Deputy Chief Financial Officer, and our host, Flavius Lilly, Associate Vice President for Academic and Student Affairs.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you to all of the students for joining us today. Like you and so many other people around the world, it may be obvious, but we're all working from home. I'm doing my best to follow the statewide stay-at-home order, being mindful of social distancing and washing my hands obsessively throughout the day, as I'm sure many of you are as well. I've been at UMB for the past 10 years, and never in that time did I think that we would have a spring semester where there were no students on campus. And never in that time could I have imagined such an unprecedentedly stressful and disruptive time in the lives of our students. I know that the transition from in-person learning to online learning has likely been more difficult than you may have anticipated. I've heard from some of you about just how hard that's been. And as challenging as it has been for students to make this transition, it's also been equally tough for the faculty to shift their mindset to online and remote instruction. Like you, they've had to navigate some really unfamiliar territory to continue to provide a high quality education and academic engagement. So these are very difficult times for all of us. None of us have ever experienced anything quite like COVID-19, but I'm convinced that we'll get through this together, and we're happy to be here with you, and we're ready to take your questions. So if you would like to begin asking them in the chat function, then I can call on you or read your questions, and one of our expert panelists will be able to answer for you. But in the meantime, as we're waiting for questions to appear, maybe I could ask Dr. Alvarez to talk about some of the work that she's been doing as the student affairs representative to the COVID-19 emergency management team.
Sure, thank you. There are a lot of people working hard, really trying to support students during this difficult time, from the president on down to everyone else here on campus, including within UMB Student Affairs centrally. And what I've always liked to say is that students have a lot of support, not only from their schools, but also from student affairs across campus. And so want to encourage you to use all of the resources available to you across campus and again within your schools. We've got Emilia Petrillo here who will share a little bit more later about the resources available, the continued resources available through the Student Counseling Center. But want to encourage students to continue to stay connected to the campus and each other. We send a lot of information via Campus Life Weekly about events that are happening, the resources and services that are continuing to be available to students, continued programming. UREC Fit is now going to be offering some virtual classes, so keep an eye out for those. ISLSI, I hear, is continuing to offer workshops and programs for students. Our students involved with PSLI, the President's Student Leadership Institute, are very active, I hear. And across the division, again, there's a lot of work happening to support students. And so I want to encourage you to reach out to us if we can be of assistance with anything. We also have been spending a lot of time with our students living on campus, wanting to make sure that they are safe, and if they've chosen to go home, that they can do so safely as well.
Thank you, Patty. As I'm trying to locate the Q&A section where Alex tells me there's some questions there, perhaps I could ask Alex to read from the Q&A list, and if there's a question there to let us know what it is, and then we can direct appropriately to the person on the panel. Sorry, I can't find that at the moment.
It's okay. We have Michael Lewandowski who has a question about some notices. I'll go ahead and open your mic now. Michael, are you there? Can you ask your question?
Yeah, I keep getting branch about getting updates to my vaccinations and things like that. And given field's been canceled and I'm an advanced standing student, should we be going out and getting these updated currently, or should we be waiting till this is over? And how do we get those notifications to stop?
Yeah, I think this may be a question for you.
Sure. Yes, I've spoken to Dr. Majette from the Student Health Center, and they are delaying of deadlines or requirements that students need to meet, including incoming students. And I thought that they had made those adjustments now for our current students, but I'll follow up with Dr. Majette. But I know that that has been an issue, a question that's been raised, and him and his team have already tried to impact that, but I'll follow up.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You can ask your Blackboard collaborate too.
Alex, if there are other questions there, please go ahead and moderate them as I try to find the Q&A.
Okay, I'm looking at a question from Lilly. Lilly, I'm going to open your mic. If you're ready to ask your question, you can go ahead. Lilly, are you there? All right, well, Lilly asks, will there be reimbursement given to international students? The amount we pay is 3 times more than other students that are residents. Will this difference be taken into consideration?
This is Scott Bitner. I can try to address that. The refund letter that we put out late last week, or earlier this week, excuse me, addresses all the fees that we will be reimbursing. There are 4 auxiliary fees, parking fees, and housing fees within Pascal Row and Fayette Square that will be reimbursed.
Okay, Alex, I've now managed to get into the Q&A and can fulfill my obligations here. So we have a question from Sydney Stern. If Sydney is there, could you please ask your question?
Yeah, you guys talk about distance learning a lot, which would be mostly a student thing. If you're more on that lab-based setting, like graduate students, which take up a large portion of UMB, who cannot distance learn in a lab, is there a thought process on the delay that will cause?
I can begin to address that. You're right, Sydney, that that there could be a delay associated with your research. We're seeing that in some of our clinical areas as well, where there are mandatory clinical rotations and clinical experience that students need in order to complete their graduation requirements. And in the same respect, there are delays in the lab. So Dr. Gerald, President Gerald, indicated in some recent guidance that even laboratory research should discontinue to comply with both the governor's orders and the social distancing guidance we've gotten from experts. So yes, there's been quite a lot of thought about that, and I think you'll see in the coming weeks some additional guidance on how we're going to help students to remain current and to hopefully continue to be able to complete and progress on time. There's a question from Yvonne Karadang. If Yvonne is ready, she can pose her question.
So I just wanted to ask, is Bank Mobile the only option for getting a refund, or can we get a checking card.
Jordan, you want to take that one?
Sure. Let me see.
I believe you're still muted, Jordan.
Um,
Scott, it looks like we may have lost Jordan. Is this a subject that you feel comfortable addressing?
I think I'm back.
You are.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We will be sending out a email following this town hall. It will come via your university. You can make online payments. And preference. Our teleworking campus, not possible at this. And
So I know Jordan was cutting in and out a bit there, at least for me she was, but I think that what she indicated that there would be more instructions to follow this meeting. So if you couldn't quite make that out, I think you can expect an email soon. So Julia Dowling has a question. So Julia, when you're ready, please ask your question.
I am wondering what the administration at the university level is doing to address the number of students who are in professional programs, from nursing to pharmacists to social workers. I'm in the social work graduate school, to ensure that when we graduate, many of us this May can pursue licensing, graduate level licensing, given the fact that many of the exam centers are closed. And I'm speaking on behalf of many of the social work students in my graduate program who can no longer take the graduate level licensing exam, which means that we can't serve clients who are in very high need of mental health professionals at this time. Thank you.
I can certainly start, and I think I understand the question that there are many testing centers that are no longer available for in-person testing. We're confronting the very same issue when it comes to admitting students where, for instance, the GRE is required, or for international students, the TOEFL is required. So what we're starting to see is some innovation on the part of those licensing exam boards in the way that they're going to do in-home proctoring. So this is really a matter of advocacy, I think, on the part of the university with the licensing boards to come up with novel ways of doing the licensing examinations. And Julia, if you don't mind, following this webinar, if you could send me an email, and my email is flilly@umaryland.edu, about the difficulty you're having with the social work licensing exam, and the university can use its influence to advocate for novel ways to complete the exam. We've been doing that with the GRE folks and with the TOEFL folks, and we can also make an appeal to your licensing board.
Absolutely. And we've involved Dean Schaefer and other deans of the School for Social Work and are in contact with the Maryland level Board of Examiners and the NASW, but I'll send you the email that we've been putting together to loop you in. I appreciate it.
Certainly. The next question is from Michael Lewandowski. Michael, if you're ready, you can ask your question.
With the amount of use Blackboard is seeing currently, it's constantly crashed, collaborates not always working well. Is there anything the school is doing to address that or to address the assignment due dates given these issues?
That I haven't heard that yet, but that's an issue that I will pass along to our chief technology officer. His name is Dr. Peter Murray, and I know that his team has been working essentially around the clock to stabilize the Blackboard system. I was myself teaching a course about a week ago, and Blackboard collapsed, and I did let him know through our provost that that had been an issue. And I suspect that they're trying to resolve that and that they are not unaware of it. I suppose what I would say and what I've communicated to the faculty in the graduate school, where I'm a senior associate dean, is that this is a moment of maximum flexibility that faculty should be conveying to students, because there are issues in the way that the system is being stressed with so many sudden online learners. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, and I'm going to pass that along to Dr. Murray so he is aware of your concern. Rula Amarin has posted a question. Rula, if you're ready, you can ask it of us.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, so we are residents, or for the students at the dental school or whoever's doing clinical hours. So a lot of our tuition is reflected upon mostly, like, more than half of it is for clinical hours. So how will the refund affect us, especially that a lot of us has taken out loans to pay for this semester?
Scott or Jordan, I suppose this is within your area of expertise.
I'll take a stab at it. We've, when deciding on the refunds, we reached out to all the schools to identify any across the university, the different refunds to provide. There were no school-specific program-related fees identified to be refunded. They were at the auxiliary level, and like I said, parking and housing. So for any specific questions related to the program-specific fees, I recommend you contact the dean's office.
The next question is related from Caroline, and I think it's the same answer, Scott, which was about refunded fees associated with clinic in the dental school. So it sounds like your advice is that students and those in the schools be directed to their dean's office with those questions.
Yes, to get more information or as to why none of those fees are being refunded, I would reach out to the dean's offices.
The next question is from Eugenia Morgatkaya. I'm sorry if I got your name wrong, but if you have a question, please pose it to us. Okay, we're not hearing anything, so I'll go ahead and read the question. She's an international student in Canada and is asking if there are any geographical restrictions to online examinations, and if so, will instructors be allowed to circumvent them? I'm not certain what school this is coming from. I can speak from the graduate school's perspective, and we've had online courses for a number of years, and there are no international boundaries to doing effective online examinations, and there are all kinds of resources through the Faculty Center for Teaching and Learning to help with the proctoring of those examinations if they're high stakes and they need to be proctored. So the only options are accessing those resources effectively. We have a question from Emily Allen. Emily, would you like to ask your question?
Can you hear me at all?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I'm having some issues with my mic. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Good. Okay. So for those of us that are graduating and we're all having trouble finding work because of the hiring freeze that's kind of widespread, and a lot of places are either letting people go or furloughing, is there any option to extend insurance coverage that we have through the school? Because I know my health insurance is going to lapse on July 31st. And if I don't find another job, or if my current job doesn't let me go up to full time, I just won't have health insurance.
I can try to answer that. So students enroll in the student health insurance plan. Their plan terminates on July 31st. So you have coverage until that date. However, the termination of coverage is considered a qualifying event. And so you could look at the Maryland healthcare market and secure an individual plan beginning after July 31st. If you're anticipating that you will be moving to another state, then I want to encourage you to seek out the insurance exchange in that state.
Thank you, Patty. We have a question from Amy Burke from the School of Social Work. Amy, could you pose your question, please?
Sure. I don't know if you can hear me, but I am curious about pass-fail options for classes and pros and cons of choosing that option, and just kind of what that looks like overall, if that's available for all of our classes, for all of the schools, and how that would affect us in the long run. Thank you.
Yeah, so I can begin to address that, and it's a complicated issue. There has been widespread pass-fail options that have been offered to students. However, it is really very much at the level of almost the program, and it has to do with a number of things, including how grade point averages are calculated and whether that's appropriate in the realm of the accreditation standards for your particular discipline. So in the School of Social Work, your Student Affairs Dean would be the person that you would want to speak with about that. And Dawn in Social Work would be able to help you to understand what the pros and cons of that choice would be for your particular situation. Jose Bosio is the next person. Oh, actually, he's just making a suggestion, which is that we turn off our video to improve audio quality. So I'll go to Rula Amaran again. Rula, if you have another question to pose, please do. Okay,
I think Rula has dropped off our list. I'm sorry.
Okay, got it. Rula asks, where can they find the amount of auxiliary fees? And is it fixed and reflect how much a student has already paid? So Jordan, you may know where students can access the list of fees that are applied to them.
Okay, can you hear me okay this time? Yes, okay.
Yes.
So we will post the list of fees on the student accounting webpage after this meeting. The email communication that was sent out 2 days ago with my name on it has a list of those fees and the amounts and the rates. For the student activity fees, it will depend on your program and what you paid for that. And there was an attachment that had the percentage that you would get back. So we are in the process of getting that posted to our website and working in the student system to assess the refunds for the fees in the upcoming week.
We have a question from Kari. Kari, if you're there, you can pose your question.
Kari's microphone is not on, Flav.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Kari asks, will students paying out-of-state tuition receive a prorated reimbursement?
I can address that, Flav. The decision within the system of Maryland was that there were going to be no tuition refunds.
Thank you, Scott. We have a question from Saad Shamshar. Saad, if you're there, you can pose your question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So I was just reading that one medical school had provided a refund in the form of a scholarship for students, specifically for match day and commencement being canceled. Was there a discussion about using the monies involved for that event to be given back to students in any way?
Scott, are you aware of any discussions about the money that would have gone toward match day and commencement coming back to students in the form of a refund?
No, I haven't been part of any discussions. Again, I would recommend speaking to the School of Medicine's or your respective school's dean's office. I haven't heard anything about that.
Thank you, Scott. Yvonne Karandang has a question. Yvonne?
I just wanted to know about Bank Mobile again. So for a Bank Mobile refund, do we need to have an account before it gets wired to us? And if we have an account, what are the fees associated with UMB and Bank Mobile monthly?
Okay, I can answer that question for you. There's two options when you log into Bank Mobile as far as selecting your refund preference. One is to set up an ACH option to an existing bank account you may already have with another bank. I'd say over 70% of our students are signed up for that refund method. The Bank Mobile Vibe account is a free account to students, although it has standard banking fees that all other bank accounts have that are out in industry. We will be sending the email after this town hall that gives all of the instructions and the information so you could read up about the Bank Mobile Vibe account if you're interested. Again, if you do not select that account, you already have an existing bank account with another bank, it would be just going through the motions of logging in and selecting that preference and putting in your banking information so that they can send you an ACH once the refund gets to them from the state of Maryland.
Thank you, Jordan. Kristen Kunanek has a question. Kristen, are you there?
No. Okay. Make sure my mic is on.
Go ahead,
if
Chris.
you're there.
And so I'll go ahead and read the question from Kristen, which is, will there be an option to wait for a check from the school or have a credit to our school account instead of creating a Bank Mobile account? Jordan, this is somewhat of a repeat.
At this point in time, if you do not select a Bank Mobile account, and again, Bank Mobile is just our vendor for refunding. You do not have to select their bank account. You can register your own bank account. But there is not an option to designate a paper check or have the credit balance saved for a future semester. The refunds will go to Bank Mobile, and if you have not selected a refund preference, after 21 days, they will issue you a check. But I will caution anyone that if you allow that to happen and you do not have a valid mailing address updated in SERFs, your check could be dispersed to an incorrect address.
So we have a question from Jose Bosio again. Jose, would you please pose your question?
Yes, I am a faculty member here at the Downtown School, and I'm concerned if there is any thought going through the possibility that all of our residents in our program, the orthodontic program, or some of them have to leave their house, their housing, because it's closed now. They were supposed to be graduating on July 1st, and we do have patients. So my concern is for these students that have been gone, will we have a place for them to stay on the short term, even those that are graduating? And is the school doing something or thinking about this?
So Dr. Alvarez has been working in the realm of student housing, and I'm certain she has an answer for that question.
Sure. On-campus housing is not closed. We're encouraging students to terminate their lease early, their license early, and to move home or to another location, because we heard from students that that's what they desired. We also think because of the CDC guidelines and the nature of this pandemic that it really would be the safest thing for the community. But again, housing is not closed. Students could and can continue to submit an intent not to vacate request, and those will be honored.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Kenya Sese has a question. Kenya.
Kenya, go ahead and ask your question. We can hear you.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. I was just asking, will the school allow students to walk in future commencements since we're no longer having a commencement of our own?
I think I can answer that. Right now, there is a survey that is being circulated among the student body, soliciting feedback on what the most appealing options are for future commencements. And there will be, I'm certain, an option for students to participate in a commencement ceremony, whether that be in the summer or in the fall. But that will certainly be an option for students that would have walked this spring and aren't able to because of the situation. The specifics of that will come from President Gerald's office, and I know that they intend to meet to discuss the results of that survey tomorrow. And so I would expect to hear some specific information very soon about that, Kenya. There's a question from Adam Baker. Adam, would you like to pose your question?
Well, Adam says actually he can't hear the program, but he's hoping to get an answer, and maybe we'll text it to him. But his question may be useful for others if you want to answer it.
Yes, I'm seeing the first question he poses is, how were the refund amounts calculated? You're on mute, Scott.
Sorry about that. So for the auxiliary fees and parking fees, we calculated the refund on the number of days that passed the 20, or including the 23rd of March to the end of the semester, that students would not be present to do that refund. And then for housing, it will depend on when you vacate the premise to the end of the lease. There'll be a daily rate calculated and the refund will be provided based on that.
The second question from Adam is that there was an email pertaining to refunds that had a statement about parking, that all parking refunds except for Fayette Square tenants will be issued by the UMB Parking and Transportation Services. It is estimated that it will take UMB 2 weeks to process refunds because all students who parked on campus need to be contacted for additional information in order to process a refund check. Checks will then be issued through the comptroller of the state of Maryland, and it may take up to a month before checks are received. It seems like just a statement that Adam is making there that I haven't received a question to just yet, but Scott, you may be able to speak to some of the issues surrounding parking refunds.
Yes, every Market Center, Lexington Market Rooftop, and Pascal Row, the refunds would be processed by the parking office. You know, their process max will take 7 to 10 days, and then we submit it to the state to remit the payment, and with the it's then subject to other all the other payments the state is making. It could take up to 30 days. So we estimate 4 to 6 weeks. We hope it won't take that long to process those payments. The Fayette Square parking refund will be processed by Fayette Square along with the housing refund, depending on what period of time you have paid for at this point.
Adam has also said in the Q&A that he's been waiting for a refund, presumably around parking, that's not related to COVID-19 since last September, and is wondering what the issue with that is. And presumably, Scott, that's something that maybe you could help Adam Baker figure out what's going on with that.
Yes, I will. I'm taking Adam's name, and we'll reach out to parking and have them reach out to him. Thank you.
Good. Laura Finot has a question. Laura, would you like to ask your question?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Does that also apply to students at the USG campus? For the parking pass refund or parking refunds?
The parking, if you're refunds at parking that you're paying at USG, we were not, that was not part of the information that we provided. I think you'd have to reach out to USG specifically for that. Was there another part of the question? I'm sorry. I was about to go somewhere else.
No, you're fine.
Okay, thank you.
Emilia, perhaps you could talk at this moment about what the Student Counseling Center is doing in this time of social distancing to have a continuity in your plan to care for students with mental health concerns. We can't hear you, Emilia, because your mic is muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. The counseling center staff is working from home, and we are answering any phone calls that students make to us. We have a voicemail available, and if a student calls and they leave their name and phone number, we're able to call them back and see what kind of assistance they need, whether it is that they just need to talk to somebody or that they need referral assistance. For students who are current clients, we have been keeping in touch with them from the very beginning, letting them know what we were doing at each step of the way. And we continue to meet with them, have phone consultations with them as needed for the past 2.5, almost 3 weeks. For this, not this week, but the beginning, the 14th of April, we will be doing a online training a workshop called the Mood Gym, and we'll be offering it weekly for the next 4 weeks. We are hoping that that will address some of the students' concerns regarding how to manage your emotions during difficult times, resilience, and some of the stress management concerns. Our staff has also been doing a great job updating our website. So if students have questions about resources, apps, anything, please go to our website. We have a ton of resources available to you. Now, one of the things that we have also been working on is starting Telemental Health for our students. To start with, our staff had to participate in required training so that we could properly conduct and do telemental health. And we are also required to develop what we call an informed consent for students who are going to be accessing our services remotely. That is ready to go, and our Irma, as well as Dr. Alvarez, gave us feedback, so that's ready to go. At this point, our biggest challenge in initiating telemental health has to do with we're working very closely with SIDS and other partners to make sure that we get what we call DocuSign, and that's a tool that allows us to securely send documents to students, such as the informed consent, so that they know what they're getting into and what their responsibilities and rights are. We don't have access to DocuSign at this point, and if I'm not mistaken, the last thing we heard was that it's not going to be available until the summer. We also trying to have access for our students, for us to send new clients the forms that we use, and have them be able to provide that personal private information. And that's also, it's a challenge right now, because my understanding is that UMB as a whole does not have a general VPN for students. And I know that SIDS and our partners are working on it, but those are the two barriers that we're facing right now in order to start providing telemental health services. Any questions?
So we don't have any additional questions from the students that are on this meeting. Are there any other words from the panelists at this point? And if not, we can conclude.
I would just encourage students to continue to take care of yourselves, to be good to yourselves. This is a new normal that, as Dr. Lilly said, we would not have anticipated we would find ourselves in. And so just want to encourage you to be good to yourselves, try to create some new normals for yourself, some new routines, make sure that you're connecting with individuals, family, friends, and individuals within the institution, practicing social distancing, of course. And encourage you to continue to use the resources we have available within the schools and across campus. The Campus Life Services website, encourage you to check that out. We have listed a lot of the resources and services that are available to students in this teleworking world, teleeducation world we find ourselves in.
Thank you for that. Okay, thank you to everyone that attended the meeting. And if you need us, we're here. And please reach out directly if you had a question and you weren't able to pose it to us here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.